It looked like almost feral animals. It was terrible.
16 children, a filthy house, and a secret investigation. We're learning more about the Ciders family in Ohio, the children who were found in the home, and what family members of the mother of the children are saying after the arrest. Plus, the attorney for one of the family members is here.
We don't have all of the evidence. We don't have anything that's showing that these kids were locked in a basement or anything of that nature. This is not what people are trying to portray.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. It's been nearly a week since sheriff's deputies and state agents went into a home in rural Ohio to execute a search warrant and found 16 children in a room that was described as filthy. Those 16 children are the daughters and sons of Gary Lee Cider Senior and Elizabeth Ciders. They are facing 16.
On June 30th, sheriff's deputies and state agents executed a search warrant at a home in rural Ohio.
16 counts of child endangering, and Gary Jr.'s parents, Gary Cider Senior and Christina Ciders, are facing the same charges. The state's attorney general, the Venton County prosecutor, and the sheriff described the conditions in the home as filthy, with feces and bugs in the 12 by 12 room where they say these children were kept.
On June 30th, sheriff's deputies and state agents executed a search warrant at a home in rural Ohio.
Some of these children couldn't even speak. Yeah, so I mean, we're talking. This is very. It was terrible. I mean,
What they found inside would lead to 16 counts of child endangering, a parallel investigation.
I mean, it looked like almost feral animals. It was terrible. So when we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole nother level of expectations here.
The children range in age from 1.5 to 18. 2 were taken to level 1 trauma centers. The others were treated in...
But the defense attorney sees something different. He sees a government trying to turn poverty into a felony. Dorian Ball, the attorney representing Gary Cider Senior, the grandfather in this case, went on the record with a striking defense.
The sheriff isn't commenting on what crime law enforcement was investigating when they went to the home on June 30th to execute that search warrant, and the documents related to it are sealed. It's only been referred to as a parallel investigation. But there are a lot of questions about
and
how
a defense attorney's accusation that the state is trying to criminalize poverty.
Well, I would say there's multiple responses. The first one, I do want to clarify for anyone who might be seeing this. They're currently facing a complaint with 16 charges, which is actually an amended complaint from an original complaint that was 17 charges. And that complaint, in the state of Ohio, you have the right to a grand jury proceeding whereby you have to present facts to a grand jury, and a grand jury will return an indictment if they think there's probable cause. So at this point, they're facing criminal charges in a complaint, but that is not what the state can proceed forward on if they were to go to trial. So first and foremost, the state still already has that extra hurdle to get over. Now, naturally, getting past the grand jury
he hasn't even
hurdle,
met his client yet. The jail wasn't permitting attorney visits over the holiday weekend, but from what he's seen, he's already calling the state's case beyond disingenuous. He says the attorney general, who admitted he never set foot inside the house, made hyperbolic statements based on secondhand information.
So little from the state at this point. As has been reported, we've already filed for discovery. We're asking for the state to provide it to us. I've had some minimal communications with the state, but from what I've seen, to be perfectly blunt, when I see a press conference where the state AG is making these hyperbolic, extravagant statements about what he saw, where the sheriff is talking about livestock, is just simply, it's beyond disingenuous, frankly. It appears to me, from what I understand, that these people are really just trying to criminalize poverty and extremely...
He says the sheriff's livestock comparison is simply inappropriate, and then he says it. It appears to me, from what I understand, that these people are really just trying to criminalize poverty and extremely impoverished family. As
many people in the media have already noted and have already discovered, the kids who have been described as feral, been described as illiterate, it's my understanding that as the internet does what it does, it's come out that these older kids had social media pages, Facebook pages, Snapchat pages, which speaks to a couple of things. Number one, if they're so illiterate,
right, The oldest couldn't spell her
felony
name.
child endangering charges, including the grandparents, Gary Cider Senior and Christina Siders. They've pleaded not guilty to the charges. When the arrests were made last week, law enforcement said the children hadn't been to school and couldn't read or write. The oldest couldn't spell her name. But one of Elizabeth Sider's brothers is disputing that his oldest nieces are illiterate, even posting screen grabs from social media accounts attributed to them.
But the internet, as it does, found something else. Social media pages attributed to the older children, Facebook, Snapchat, accounts that suggest they could read, write, and communicate. How could a child who's supposedly illiterate post online? How could a child who's allegedly trapped and isolated have internet access? One family member posted screen grabs of messages between a teenage girl and her ex-boyfriend writing, "I thought my nieces couldn't read or write."
Attributed to them. Joey Russell posted on Facebook, "I thought my nieces couldn't read or write. These are messages between her and her ex-boyfriend. He says they had to break up because of her neighbor Mike. He sent proof of everything. The lies need to stop. The speculation needs to stop. Clearly the neighbors knew. Clearly she could read, write, and speak. We just want the damn truth. Praying day and night for my nieces and nephews." Now, how the teenage girls were able to post on social media
The
isn't
question that hangs over this entire case is simple. What was the parallel investigation that brought law enforcement to that door? The documents are sealed. The prosecutor left open the possibility of more charges, and the attorney says he and his colleagues will be very interested to see what the search warrant actually said.
If they're so illiterate, how are they posting things online? Number two, if these are kids who are trapped in this place, how are they able to have... Typically, when you see cases where people are trapped or they're not allowed to go do things freely, they're not given internet access, they're not given social media pages. Furthermore, I've seen the inside of this house. I'm pretty sure that the state AG did not see the inside of this house, because when he was making these descriptive statements about what he saw...
The lies need to stop. When you see a press conference where the state AG is making these extravagant statements, but then you discover he never even went inside, you have to ask, is this justice, or is this a narrative designed to justify a
about
raid?
what he saw or what he smelled. I'm going to go ahead and guess that he was getting that secondhand from a number of people. And I think for him to come out and, again, make these hyperbolic statements without himself being really a part of it was just frankly inappropriate.
Well, the AG said he was outside the house. He didn't go in. What have you seen of the inside of the house? Because we're just seeing the photos that were taken, they're press photos from the outside of the house. And obviously it does look like it might be a little bit unkept, it looks dirty.
The attorney says the evidence the state has provided amounts to a modicum, barely anything. He's filed for discovery. He's waiting for documentation on the hospitalizations. He's waiting for the grand jury to decide if there's even probable cause, and he's openly questioning the basis for the search warrant itself, noting that a couple of misdemeanor indecent exposure charges against Gary Cider Jr., 4 counts of allegedly exposing himself, wouldn't normally generate this kind of response.
It looks dirty. But what have you seen that you are disputing the characterization of the 12 by 12 room and the feces and everything where these kids were kept?
So again, unfortunately, because of the very preliminary stage of the game, everything we've been sent essentially is marked as counsel only, which means I can't actually disclose full details of what I've seen. I can, however, say that I believe the characterization...
So where do you stand? The state says child endangerment, the defense says criminalizing poverty, and the truth, as always, is buried in the evidence we haven't seen yet. We'll be watching the grand jury proceedings and the sealed search warrant documents. If you want to look into this yourself, start with the Venton County Court records. The docket numbers are public, and the motions are starting to pile up. Read the complaint. Read the defense's discovery request. Then ask yourself, does the evidence match the outrage? If this case raises questions for you, share it. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Project Cold Case, because when the system fails, we follow the evidence.
Kept or was, perhaps looking dirty. I think people can look at the pictures for themselves and see that. But it's not illegal for something to be dirty. It's not illegal for a home to be unkempt. If so, I would suggest there's going to be a lot more people out there with criminal charges they're facing if simply having a few things out of place is really the standard. I mean, that's not the standard for for secondary felony child endangering. So, they have quite the burden, I think, to show what they have been describing in their various news conferences and press releases, etc. And I think having...
On June 30th, sheriff's deputies and state agents executed a search warrant at a home in
we
rural
know
Ohio.
about that, but law enforcement has been tight-lipped about what initially brought them to that house, the search warrant that was being executed. Those documents are sealed. Do you know anything about this parallel investigation that brought Ohio BCI and the sheriff's department to the Cider's home?
Unfortunately, I don't. And as you sort of alluded to, it would seem pretty odd for a couple of misdemeanor counts of indecent exposure to generate the type of response that happened at this house. I would also be very interested to see what this search warrant said, what the basis for the search warrant was, how they were able to obtain such a search warrant, because I